This year, interestingly, the number of starving people in the world will roll over to 1 billion, but there's also 1 billion people who are using the internet daily.
Most people in the developing world live on less than $1 a day.
We'll let people know that the amount of lunch money they spend every day can feed a family in Africa for like a week.
There is actually enough food in the world, it's just that it's not being distributed correctly.
People living on the streets, people who don't have any homes.
They don't have any monies, they don't have any food to eat, like it's limited.
Women are not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia.
Women are being killed just because they're women for small things that we could do in Ireland and no one would bat an eyelash.
It's horrific to think about and think what kind of lifestyle they have.
The world is such a small place that it's such a shame that you mightn't know so much that's going on only a few thousand miles away.
Our generation has such a grasp on power now that if we wanted, we could change the world.
I really would love to open people's eyes to this idea of going out and doing something, because it all counts, it really does.
And people need to be aware of it in the Western world, where at the moment, like, things are tough, but we need to keep in mind the poorest of the poor.
The world we live in is characterised by massive inequalities. So educators are faced with this huge challenge. What are we going to tell young people about the world we live in? How are we going to educate them for living in a world that's so unequal? And this is where development education comes in.
Development education is all about thinking beyond yourself and thinking about others, whether it's the person beside you, the person, you know, in your own community, or somebody in Africa or wherever. It's about thinking outside of yourself.
One of the central jobs of any school is to help young people make sense of the world.
We have a responsibility to develop the students at the school ourselves, but we also have a responsibility on a national and a global level.
Once it was explained to us what it was about and what it involved and all that, it seemed like it was really worth doing, and it had some wider bearing on the state of the world rather than just in our own kind of little bubble in TY in school.
I don't think it's enough to just focus on Irish or a European scale. We need to be looking globally now.
Development education really took off in a big way back in 2006, 2007.
At the moment, there is a development issues course for transition years that is available. That specific course brought all of the resources from Trócaire, Concern, 80/20, Amnesty, schools across borders, and put them into one specific syllabus. So at the moment, we have 32 schools working on the project.
We don't have a subject called development education. It's known as a cross-curricular theme.
There are lots of subjects on the curriculum that have a development education bit, if you like, associated with them.
My experience on global issues, I think, would be mainly learning about it from like geography classes and religion, and then CSP for the junior cert.
The evidence suggests that many of them don't do the joined-up thinking, so they don't see the connections between what they're learning in geography and the fact that they might have taken part in a Concern debate or a Trócaire fast or whatever.
We had teachers who were very interested, who were very capable, and who were prepared to work with students to learn themselves and to develop their own education and to bring the students along with them.
I just didn't think it was good enough for people who were able to go to university and not know about anything about the inequality in the world, anything about the gender inequality, any ideas of conflict, any ideas of sustainability.
The big challenge for individual teachers is, how am I going to incorporate these themes, these global justice issues, into my classroom?
It was far more different to any class we'd done in Transitioner. That most stuff we do in Transitioner was more like a class towards a teacher relationship, whereas Dev Ed was like the whole class was engaging in discussions and certain like topics that were relevant to development education. It was more like public speaking than, I suppose, a classroom environment.
Well, the fact that it's not an exam subject and therefore there are no criteria and guidelines strictly laid down, the onus is very much on the students themselves, and they set their own agendas and they set their own goals.
And you're really able to engage in the class and engage in topics that maybe you wouldn't be able to do in a science class where you just learn the facts. In this class you can discuss a wide range of issues that affect so many people.
Poverty and human rights is a sort of a core starting place, and then depending on the group and the talents of the group, you can steer it in whichever way you feel meets the needs of the students.
We were just kind of given a topic and we discussed it, topics as broad as gender or race.
When you come across these issues, you feel, how come I never seen this before? How come it's just I'm only after coming across it now?
You're just kind of amazed and stunned that you haven't already been informed of topics like this, and it's just like a big shock. But it's really interesting then, like, you know.
I think just open discussions and talking about the issues and bringing in speakers even and ideas and just getting people aware really is, because education is the key really.
How we teach is really important. Development education puts a particular emphasis on active teaching and learning methodologies. So that involves trying to get youngsters into, as it were, into the shoes of people who are in marginalised, disadvantaged situations.
The active methodologies like walking debates and simulation games and just the open discussion of it, it brings them to address adult issues in a very mature way. Okay, folks, the second motion for our walking debate today is Ireland should stop sending money to developing countries. We have I disagree on this side and we have I agree on this side. It's student-led, it's action-based, it's a collaboration of ideas.
So a particular challenge for teachers is to be courageous and brave enough to employ active teaching and learning methodologies. And they're sometimes a bit messy and a bit noisy and a bit different from a more traditional view of classroom learning.
I don't subscribe to this notion that students must be tied down and you must be in this class at this particular time and sitting in their seats, and that anything other than that, there's no learning going on.
Starting out, I think maybe some teachers may be apprehensive. I suppose coming from traditional ways of teaching, I think students can gain an awful lot from working with each other, sharing their opinions, and then giving it to the whole class. We forget that when we ask students as a whole class, the quieter students may not volunteer their information.
The way that development education is taught, it kind of gets you involved, brings you out of yourself, and I think that's what helped. It made me very confident I could stand up in front of a class and not be jeered. The quiet guys in the class could get up in a kind of atmosphere where they're accepted, and I think that's helped a lot.
A personal development, like teamwork skills and communication skills, and just learning how to talk to people and how to get your point across has improved an awful lot.
Each individual person in our YSI class had a special talent, like that's something that we could use. So it was really great to see people's, personalities shining through. Like, not only was it about raising awareness, which was the main part of it, but for us personally, we got so much more out of it.
Response from students to active learning methods tends to be very, very positive.
They embark on a journey of personal development, and they're dealing with very adult issues, and they're very young.
It is a really adult, I suppose, topic, and it's scary, but you do mature an awful lot.
I think students who have followed a development education course become more responsible people.
There's absolutely no question about it that the students that participate in DevEd classes in transition year are far more mature than their colleagues that haven't had those experiences. The different issues are based in the Millennium Development Goals, and teachers can dip in and dip out of the different themes.
World hunger,
poverty,
human rights,
gender inequality,
deforestation,
genocide,
medical care,
genital mutilation,
Africa,
HIV, AIDS,
child labour.
The evidence is very strong that young people respond really well to the sense of we're now dealing with real issues, the real world. This is not just learning for an exam or something that's in a textbook. We're talking about real people's lives. We're talking about people who are in incredibly difficult circumstances and very different from the reality of most youngsters in Irish schools.
I use the model of young social innovators, and each class group, each year, we would decide on a social issue, and then we'd spend 1 year working on that issue, and we then have to come up with a very innovative and creative response.
There was kind of 2 parts to our project. One part was our book, which we sent away for submissions for. We wrote to famous people, people that went to Africa, students in our school and in other schools, and we compiled this book called 2015.
When you've seen how people felt by the stories in our book when they read the book, they really cared about what we'd done and how much we'd put into our project. And
then another part to our project was Poverty Week, which we got to live a week in poverty. It was all about empathising with people in poverty, kind of walking in their shoes.
Our project was about gender inequality, and we decided to make a difference. That's why we started this project. We really did achieve a lot. Our project was sent to the United Nations in New York conference in February 2008, and our project got into the Dáil and was presented to Deputy Peter Power.
We took on a project which was to raise awareness and funds for child labour in association with Concerned Stop Child Labour campaign. So we had a few awareness events within the school.
The whole point of our YSI project was to raise awareness about it, to make people aware what they're buying, where it's coming from.
Our teacher, Miss Lee, she wasn't a teacher, she was a facilitator.
She helped us along the way, but we decided what we wanted to do. She gave us places where we could find information about what we wanted to do.
But it was up to us to get the work done and to do what we wanted.
I don't have all the answers, and it's kind of refreshing. Like it makes me a better teacher, I think, in my regular classroom to have the DevEd experience.
The teacher engages with the students, and I suppose instead of you do your usual homework and you come back in and you have exams and you have to study, in the development education situation, you're in the classroom and you discuss topics.
One of the rules of development education is that you have to listen. You know, that it's about opinions, and it's not just factual things. You have to take into account sort of things like religion, people's culture, etc. when you're going to debate an issue.
To see our students who have actually gone and visited Ethiopia and Africa, to come home with the story firsthand and to relate it is a wonderful achievement and a wonderful experience.
In fifth year, me and I think 6 other lads went out to Calcutta to work for 16 days, and that was doing DevEd kind of was one of the key motivating factors in doing that. Like, and I suppose as well we felt that kind of once we went out there, we were like DevEd giving us these tools, these kind of, we weren't going out ignorant. Like,
we went to Colombo in Zambia, which is in southern Africa. We went there primarily to work in schools for 2 weeks. You learn so much from them. Like, it's incredible the things they can teach you. I suppose the fact that you should never judge a book by its cover.
When you see these people as actual people and not just these kind of starving bellies, and meeting these people who are like intelligent, exceptionally bright people.
And it's just such a shame that they don't have access to the facilities that we have, especially education.
And you kind of do see that it's far deeper than just people don't have food. And DevEd kind of like gives you these tools to unravelling, I suppose, a bit. It makes you less naive.
The great thing about development education is applying that practical experience in the classroom. I think anyone can do development education. I don't necessarily think you have to go overseas, because I think there are lots of examples of inequality and poverty in Ireland as well.
For teachers thinking of teaching DevEd, the syllabus is there. It was written by teachers, for teachers. It works, it's real. The resources are fantastic. You could have DVD, you could have worksheets, you could have guest speakers, you could have photo packs.
We watched films and stuff like Shooting Dogs and looked at this book 80-20 to do with like the imbalance of the way that the world's wealth is distributed.
We watched the film Hotel Rwanda, and it was great. The students were really, really interested in it. It brought up the topic of genocide and loads of moral issues, and brought up loads of discussion points, and it really brought up real issues for the students that they could, you know, identify with, seeing things on the news and seeing a real story.
There is a wealth of resources out there to support teachers.
They have numerous visitors, numerous workshops where they work together themselves, but also with at least, you know, groups or clusters of 3 and 4 different schools.
And the resources are all online on the website, and it makes it easy for teachers to teach this DevEd programme.
It's really important as well that teachers know that they can just pick up the phone to various organisations if they're looking for support.
I loved the course and I gained so much from it.
One of the best experiences of my life, and I'd say it has changed my outlook on everything completely.
It was really good. It was probably the highlight of the last 3 years of school.
With the statistics and the learning you get from development education, you see kind of how bad the world is in a sense.
The way you carry out your life, your lifestyle, the way you think about stuff like, say, buy fair trade, or you think before, you think about the people behind the statistics.
It kind of inspires you a lot, and it kind of gives you a sense that if we don't do something, who will, kind of a thing. So it does kind of make you want to get involved.
It's affected me, and it's definitely helped me in my studies I'm doing now in third level. In terms of politics and law, human rights law, it's definitely helped me.
I've seen the students going through the DevEd programme, and their career choices and their work experience placements are very much affected by the experiences that they've had during the DevEd programme.
I was doing work experience in fourth year in a research centre, and with experience in development education as well, found that you could use science to help the developing world. So I kind of changed my mind about what course I wanted to do in college and chose to do a science degree and to hopefully get involved in doing disease research, looking for cures for diseases in the developing world.
I do know I want to give something back. I know I want to do something for these people. I know there's something a bit more than, buying a house and buying a car and raising a family. There's a bit leaving something there. What I would love to do is, when I leave this world, I'd love to know that I've left it in a better place than it would be than when I've come. And I think a lot of people think about that, but they just need to know that they can do it. It really is possible.
It gives me great satisfaction as well to see them grow in confidence, not just the curriculum growth and knowledge, but also personal development, and they go out there with a desire to do something, to be an agent of change.
I would certainly endorse development education in every school in Ireland if that were possible.
We would encourage other students to partake, we would encourage other schools, we would encourage anybody.
You should really get involved. Like, you can express your opinion so much more, and you feel like you're important and you can actually make a difference.
This year is the first taste we've got of it. If we had been learning it from primary school up, we'd have more of an idea about it, and there'd be a lot more done in the world maybe about development goals and different projects like that.
In Leaving Cert, they're looking at introducing a new subject, politics and society. And definitely in that course, development education could be incorporated into it. This knowledge will not only benefit them socially, they'll become passionate about these issues, but they can also continue it on to the Leaving Cert and continue it on to third level as well.
You have an opportunity in every school to use the talents, to use all of the resources that you've picked up in your teacher training. It is an amazing opportunity to get involved, for example, in debating, opportunities to get involved with YSI, the Young Scientists exhibition. So it's an opportunity for a new teacher to make an impact on the school.
I've been in many schools and I can see the fantastic work that has been done in them. You have at your fingertips a group of really active, diverse young people who are willing to take action.
Simply by exchanging ideas and exploring their own thoughts and becoming comfortable with who they are and why they think like they do, I think all of that helps them to react and to act in a way that just makes the whole school community and school environment a happier place and a nicer place to be.
And eventually, as the years go on, DevEd issues becomes a topic of conversation in the corridors of your school. And it's like the way we do things.
You're able to see what your goal is, what you have to do, how the difference that you can make, the difference that one individual can make, the difference a class can make, the difference a year group can make. Development education shows that it's not just governments, it's not just NGOs, it's the grassroots, it's the students and it's the people that really make a difference, that can change the world.
We know in terms of global injustice that it's hugely dependent on the relationship between rich countries and poor countries. It's all to do with the lifestyle we have in developed countries. The challenge is to change that, to have a more sustainable world, to have greater equality. That's going to come about with increased awareness. It's part of official government policy, that everybody should be exposed to these issues in development education.